Hello everyone, Mr. ScareBear here, and for the 50th video, I felt like doing a behind the scenes of what, really goes on into making these videos. Now, let's start off with my story recordings, how I go ahead and record my narrations. I typically use Audacity to record all the stories. It's very rarely that I use my video editor to do any story recordings, and that's because I prefer to use Audacity since with Audacity I have more options to actually clean up the audio, and level it out. That's not to say that with Camtasia you can't level out the audio, but Audacity does a better job in my opinion. Now, for my last horror story video that I did, which is my Craigslist Horror Story Super Nintendo video, there was a lot of different tracks that I had to record, and a lot of different voice effects that I had to do, and this also meant a lot of cleaning. In between each track, what I would do, at least for this video, is I would highlight where I'm not saying any words whatsoever, and I would go over to Effect, and to mute it, I would go to Amplify, and just drag it down to negative, we'll say 43. This would actually lower the volume. So here's an example of me talking right now.
Well, it's easier to demonstrate.
So let me go ahead and highlight it, go to Amplify. I'll just repeat the Amplify since it's actually still saved. Now, let me go ahead and play it, and ta-da! Silence. Now that's what I did in this video. But for most other videos, what I would just do is go to Noise Reduction and get the noise profile. And I would do this by, well, I can't show you an example right here because there's nothing, to go off of since I already did the editing. But after I'm done recording, you could still hear somewhat of the background. I would basically get the background noise like this, go to Noise Reduction, get Noise Profile, highlight the entire track, and repeat the noise reduction. What that would do is actually silence most of the track. This would actually help clean the audio. It wouldn't make it perfect, but it would definitely be an improvement over what you would normally hear. Now, over time, I have learned a little bit more tricks. I've dealt with some sound effects. I haven't made them myself, obviously, but I have done a little bit more editing. I've learned, a little bit here and there is what I'm saying. So, let's take this part for example. Now, animation is something I just don't know how to do. But, that wasn't going to stop me from trying to do special effects in some kind of form. What I did for this part was I got a green screen of an eagle. And you're probably wondering, how did I get a green screen of an eagle to show up on a video like this? Well, with Camtasia, I can actually remove the color. So what I did was, I went to the green screen. Let me go ahead and just show you guys right now like this. Okay, I went to Visual Effects, remove color. Now right away it's not going to do it because I need to select the proper color. And you can still see a little bit of green. So I went to Tolerance until it looks just right. You don't want to take off the wing like that. See, if you do too much, you're going to take off the eagle. So I did it to where it was just good enough. And then, to make it even better, I went to Opacity and dragged it down just a little bit. Not too much, but enough to where it's going to match the video. And then from there,
Mighty
just
hot.
click play.
Driving all by the most insane hikers indoors unless it's at night.
As for the sound effects, well, let's take the cricket one. The sound effects I make sure are leveled enough to where you can hear it, but aren't overpowered, to where they're not going to be over the sound of the background music and over the sound of the actual horror story narration. So let's hear this one.
The crickets pierce the night as I climb the steps, illuminated by my flashlight.
And then of course obviously it'll fade out. Now with the cricket one, what I ended up doing was I didn't want it to look like it did before. This is what it looked like before. The tone just didn't feel right. What I did for this one was I colorized it. I went ahead and dragged colorize effect. I went to blue and I made it a really dark blue. Then from there, I again just went to opacity and, well, actually it's still saved, but yeah, that's pretty much what I did for this one. Not much to say about that. The videos aren't automatically darkened either, and I demonstrated this before when I showed the eagle, but what I do for the opacity is I just darken it to around 30, typically 40%. It just depends on the video clip that I'm using. And I have to do this for each and every single clip that I use. This can be a little time consuming, but I do it because I want the video to feel right. I want it to look the way well, in my opinion, that it should look for a horror story. In my opinion, horror stories need to show a bit of a darker tone. Now in here we've got all the different stock footage that I use for all my videos. Every single video you see here, you've probably seen in my videos at least once. And then of course we've got the completed videos, which is, you know, the videos you'll see on YouTube. And the earliest video I saved from here, I want to say is the horror story video with Reddit. Nope, I was wrong. I mean, I was close, but I was still wrong. It's Blizzard, and then Reddit. What got me interested in saving the videos at all was mainly because, well, I felt if anything were to happen, I'd rather have a backup. And they are backed up onto my external hard drive as well, but I'd rather have them saved on my computer because the hard drive that they're saved to right now is my SSHD. And I also have an SSD installed as the main drive. So there's really not much of a chance of it crashing anytime soon. And if anything does crash, again, I still have my external hard drive as a backup for all my videos that I have saved over time, and all my story recordings and my stock footage. Like I said, I've started saving all my story recordings in case anything goes wrong, so here's all the story recordings that I've saved over time as well. The story recordings do take a while to record, and the size they end up being, because I save them in the best quality possible, is usually anywhere between 50 to 100 megabytes. It really depends on the story, but sometimes it could end up being, 130, 140, but I do this because, again, I want the quality to be the best quality possible. So if I go ahead and click, let's say, always lock your doors, which is 2 minutes 54 seconds, that file is 58.8 megabytes, so let's take a listen.
I work on a small dairy farm in the upper Midwest. It kind of has a weird layout, but I'll try my best. Right when you walk in, there's a...
And then here is True Craigslist Horror Story version 2. Version 1 is just a little bit less altered.
It was mid-June in 2014. I normally advertise on Craigslist instead of eBay when I have things. However, he lived in a more isolated part of town that I had not been to before. I finally arrive and knock on his door. It opens, and I see a man in a dark red robe. Hello. I'm here to see Tom about my Super Nintendo. Yes, that's me. Please come in.
In here, of course, we've got all the green screen special effects that I've used. We've got the silhouette of an athletic man, the Santa Claus, the woman giving a speech, which I actually have to use with a red background, and that one was actually a little bit trickier than you think, because I had to remove the green, but as I was removing the opacity like I normally do, it started making her a little bit invisible, if you will. And then of course we've got the VHS special effect, which I only used one time. I used this one time because I wanted to see how you guys would like it, if you thought maybe it was worth using, and I kept it because I don't know if I'll ever use it again. But you never know. I wanted to keep it just in case. The work that gets put into these videos is probably a lot more than you guys think, and that's mainly because it takes about 5 to 6 hours just to make the video itself. That's not counting how long it takes to record the story. On average, and I'm just being completely honest, on average it takes me about a half hour to an hour to do all the audio editing and the story recording. And that's because, I'm doing the best I can to record the story, and I'm also doing the best editing I can to make sure the audio sounds as clean as possible. Now, when it comes to the video editing, I make sure that each and every little clip looks as good as possible and matches the tone of the story that I'm narrating. This includes the scene that it's portraying and the overall atmosphere of the video. So this clock, for example, before it looked like this. Very bright and full of color. What I did was I dropped it down to 55 opacity, and I'm just like, well, that doesn't look good enough still. I mean, you can still see how bright it is. There's got to be a way to make it look better. Well, what I did was I worked around it by going to colorize again and went to black, and I'm just like, uh-oh, that's too much, so I just did a little bit to where it was around 70 or 80. like that, and perfect. Now it looks pretty dark. And then we got the transitions. They really don't take much time at all, but I still pick each one based on what's going on. I really want to thank each and every one of you guys for sticking around, especially those of you who have been around since the beginning. It really means a lot to me that you guys are watching my videos. You guys have no idea how much I honestly like that. I mean, with the migraines that I've been having, and how I've had to stop production on the videos every so often, and you guys still stick around, I really appreciate that. So please stay tuned, you guys. More videos are on their way, and they'll definitely be well worth the wait. This has been Mr. ScareBear, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you, bye bye.
It was mid-June in 2014. I normally advertise on Craigslist instead of eBay when I have things to sell, mainly